Yeah, this is Leo Brady with AMovieGuy.com.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you.
This is fantastic. Thanks for talking with me today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, geez, I'm so excited for this film. You've had such a fantastic career already. And I think you've done it all. You've been a DJ, you've been a TV host with MTV, you've been a model, you're an actor. But my first question I wanted to start off with is which one are you more passionate about, or is it just all of it?
Acting, but for me, it was really hard to, my first opportunity was I was in film school,
Yeah.
and we had to go and audition for things, and come back and explain why we didn't get it, essentially, and say,
Yeah.
I did this wrong, I could do this better, and one of my auditions was MTV, and I came
Yeah.
back and they're like, how was it? I'm like, I got the role, and they're like, oh, this is an after, and it was in a different city, it was in Sydney, so they're like, this
Right.
is an after class conversation.
Yeah.
And so I started as a VJ, and then I moved into DJing because I loved music and DJing so much. Then I had a radio show, I had a clothing range, I hosted the Winter Olympics in Vancouver. I did all these different things, but it was always with the idea that I wanted to end up acting.
Yeah.
And at one point in Australia, I said, I want to act now. And it was funny because Wentworth was casting, which is sort of like a Australian version of Orange in a way.
Yeah.
And they said, look, they're not, no one's going to see you as anything but Ruby Rose, the personality, as in like the TV personality, the this, the that. They don't want to see you. And I was like, you're right. Someone said something like, oh, you're like the Ryan Seacrest of Australia. Like, then you're not going to be in a film or TV show. And so I realized then that if I wanted to act, which was what I originally set out to do, I was going to have to move to the States to start fresh, where people didn't know all those things about me,
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I 2 years unemployed, couldn't get a manager or an agent, met with everyone, CAA, WME, like everybody. And they all said, we want you to do reality TV, DJ, and host MTV. And I was like, I don't want to, I just want to be an actor. And they're like, pass. And so I actually got Orange without a manager, without an agent. I just made a short film, I put it online, it went viral. And I was like 4 months away from losing my visa and having to go home because I hadn't worked in 2 years.
Yeah.
And I auditioned for Orange, got that, and it changed everything.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, I want to get into the Doorman a little bit, but I wanted to ask you this question first. Growing up in Australia, what sort of movies did you watch growing up? And did you have a favorite genre at all? Like whether it's sci-fi or horror or anything like that? Or is it action movies?
When I was really young, it was like horror films that I should not have watched, like Candyman, like,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And It, like the original It, we would have like sleepovers and watch these horrific films that kids my age should not have been watching, but I was so obsessed. But now as I get older, I decide whether I want to watch a horror film or not, because I'm like, how much trauma do I want to subject myself to right now? It has to be a particular kind of horror.
Right.
Then I moved more into like some action films, but like I guess as a teenager and so forth, like Girl Interrupted and the more kind of dramatic films, and also, let's be honest, anything with Angelina Jolie at the time. And I think Tomb Raider was probably my first like forte into seeing a woman be an action star. And when I saw that, I was like, I'd seen men be action stars and I loved those films, but that was when I kind of had a moment and sort of thought, this is really cool. I've never seen this before. And I want to, can I do this? Is this something that I'd be able to do? Yeah.
That's awesome. And that helps me with my next question too, because you've done like Resident Evil, Triple X, John Wick 2, Pitch Perfect 3. Like you've been in these awesome series and especially like those action movies, but now The Doorman is your own film. This is like you. So how did that feel for you to be able to kind of finally have a movie that is your movie as an action star?
Well, let me tell you, my biggest fear was that until I did the Meg, my biggest fear was that on my tombstone would be like, she came, she did every sequel, and she left. Because every film I'd done had a 6, a 2, a 3, any number after it. Right. And I was starting to get worried that would be me, just sequel girl, Yeah. And so when I saw the Meg, and I'm like, there's no number after this, I'm going to do it. So I started with that, and then SAS, I shot before this, but it's not out yet, was the first time I was sort of, also like me and Sam Heughan are sort of equal leads and number ones, and we're sort of, it's the first time I did that, and I went, wow, this is, some people are entrusting me to do this. This is unbelievable. And with Andy Serkis and Tom Wilkinson. It's a fantastic experience. And then the Doorman was like just singularly me,
Yeah.
and with Jean Reno.
Right.
So there's a lot at stake here, right? It's and you turn up to work, and it's not just doing just the acting part. You also have to set the tone and be there and be so conscious of what's going on, and be talking to the director a lot more, and the producer and writers and the cast, and make sure everyone's comfortable. And especially on the Doorman, because I had a teenager and a young child, so that was sort of a big part of my responsibility. And then I just did Vanquish with Morgan Freeman, and again, it's my film, and it's just, I feel very, very lucky.
Yeah, well, I mean, and like for me, I loved like 80s action movies growing up, whether it was like Sly Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I've always felt, and you brought up like Tomb Raider, and it felt like Angelina Jolie did that, and then it kind of like faded away. But I've always felt like we need a female superstar, to be that action star. Do you hope that this is sort of something for you in your career that you'll just continue to do, to be that? Because I think like, and I know you've done a lot of great stunt work, so I mean, I think you can totally be that character. You've proved it here with the Doorman.
I think, I definitely love action. I was born to do action films and the physicality, and I enjoy it. I also want to do different things also. Like, that's why I wanted to do Pitch Perfect. I want to tell different stories. I want to tell stories that, I would love to do a romantic comedy, but I will have to fight so hard to get someone to put me in one, versus, if I get an action script, it's like, oh, here you go, here's an action film. If I'm like, I want a romantic comedy, they're going to be like, me think about this. How is that going to work? But I would love to. So I want to go into all different kind of genres and continue furthering my work in different areas, which is what I'm doing in my upcoming stuff. But to be solidified as an action star, like Charlize Theron, she's one of the other ones that's just consistently going and doing these amazing action, films, and she's the reason why I can do it. Angelina's the reason why we can. It's this whole thing where we're setting the standard, and when we're allowing them to get created, and hopefully people like them, so then they can make more of them and more people can be involved in the whole process.
Yeah. Well, they're telling me to wrap soon. I wanted to ask you one more question. I know you have a tattoo of Leonardo, the Ninja Turtle, on your arm, and my name's Leo, so I feel like we have that connection. But do you have a certain tattoo that's your favorite? And I've got my Blade Runner origami tattoo. So
I love that.
yeah,
I don't know if I have a favorite. I love all of them. I love my Basquiat. I have Basquiat's picture here, and I have the crown on my chest. I've always been a big fan of him, and his whole journey and story, and that period of time, the 80s in New York City. So I love that, but honestly, I love all of them, and Leonardo too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on the Doorman. I think it's fantastic. I had so much fun watching it, and I hope fans get to see it and love it as much as I did.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Yep. Bye-bye.